Okay, so hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Cody C. Engdahl, and I am the author of, I believe now, let's see, five novels and two nonfiction works. So I am the author of seven books right now. And this, I have no official like beginning or pre-scripted opening to the show because this channel and this show is a very informal. I'm trying to build up my YouTube channel, so if you don't mind, like they say here on YouTube, smash that like button, give me a subscription. If you subscribe to my channel, doesn't mean you pay anything or anything like that. It just means that when I go live, you can actually get notified if I am going live, so you can come in and watch or even get on. I put the link in the chat. So if you want to come on camera and talk to me, man, you're more than welcome to do. If you're an author and you want to come in and talk about your book, I'd love to do that. I'll tell you right now, I don't have a really big audience, but I'm working on it. So I won't bury the lead anymore. We're going to talk tonight about Angus Donald's third episode of his novel. So the novel is called The Broken Kingdom. The third episode of this novel is called Arthur's Revenge. And I will get into what that is. But first of all, let's take care of some business. You're probably wondering, why am I speaking in such a low voice? And this does not look like the normal background. Okay, so I'm staying in a hotel room in Maryland, in North Bethesda. It's hard for me to say because I don't know if you've noticed this about me, but I naturally have a lisp in which I had to go through speech therapy as a child. That lisp escapes from me every once in a while. And so having a word that has both th and a s next to each other is absolutely cruel to people like me. So I'm in Maryland, North Bethesda. If to give you any kind of reference, I looked it up at a map and I saw that I am 12 miles from the White House right now, though, in Washington D.C. So if I see President Biden wandering around lost, I promise I'll pick him up and I'll return him back home and take care of that right away. So anyway, just to give you a look, I'm on the 10th floor of the let's see this the Canopy by Hilton, and I have this wonderful view. I would turn on more lights here, but then you wouldn't see out the window. So that's the 10th. There's like a courtyard down there. It's kind of upper scale shopping and entertainment. And you may wonder what I'm doing here. Well, it's nothing too impressive. I still do some work on the side. I do a lot of research studies in which I do data collection. So I just signed on to a new study called Moved, in which we go and collect data on families that have been given housing vouchers, and um, we interview them about their health and about their ability to get food, and we take biometrics as well as like their weight and their height and things like that. But I won't bore you to death. I'm training all this week, and then I think starting, I don't know, when I get back to Nashville, which will be Monday night, sometime after that, I'll be starting with that. So let's stop. Let's not stop burying the lead, and let's get right into it. So I am going to share, and I got to tell you, a couple things. First of all, about Angus Donald. I was a just make sure that's on there. Okay, good. Yeah, so this is the book we're going to talk about, or the episode rather. And so I first discovered Angus Donald at my public library in Nashville, Tennessee. They had, I don't think they had any hard copies of his books, but they had on Kindle, they had his first Robin Hood book. And this was before I wrote my first novel. And I was at that time not even planning on writing. I was just a fan of historical fiction. There was a book about Robin Hood, and I read it, and I got to tell you, it is probably my favorite version or rendition of Robin Hood. So great work there. I've since read the second of that series, and I read one of another series that takes place, I believe, sometime. It's not the English Civil War, but it's sometime around that era, um, during a fight in Ireland, and I can't remember the name of the series. And I read the third one, but what got me really interested in this book here, or this project, is that Angus is a commercially published author. He's a big, well known author in the historical fiction air space. He has I don't know who he's published through, but he has decided on the side to do this side project and do it independently, like me. So that made me really interested to see big authors take that route to do the independent stuff. Um, the second thing that made me really interested was the format in which he's putting the story out. So this is going to be a novel, but instead of, like for me, when I write a novel, it takes me now a little more than a year to write it, to get it edited, and to get it published. And then once you get it out, you start making the money. Well, instead of waiting to do that, what he has opted to do is to break up this novel into episodes. In fact, it's not just a novel, it's going to be, I believe, at least a trilogy. And instead of waiting for each novel to come out and then put it out and hope it does well, he is breaking it up into um, well, the first novel is going to be 5 episodes, and each episode's about 20,000 words, which is about 70 to 80. I'm sorry. Yeah, 20. Is that right? Yeah, 20,000, about 20,000 words, which comes out to be, depends on how the book is formatted. That comes out to be about 70 to 80 pages, I think, of a regular novel. And I think it's a brilliant idea. And to tell you the truth, I don't know if I would have been interested in this project had it just come out and it was just like, okay, here is a. And by the way, the trilogy is about King Arthur. It's another take of King Arthur. I don't know if I would have been interested in reading that in of itself, because I mean, I love Excalibur. I think that's how I was introduced to Arthur. I watched the Excalibur movie from 1980, 81. I've seen the Disney version of it, The Sword and the Stone. And of course, I've read the Bernard Cornwell version, the Winter King in that trilogy. And I think they are now doing a series on it, but I don't think I want to watch it, because I just feel like today I don't trust anything when they make stuff. They make everything woke, and I mean, I'm not like a jerk about that stuff, but when they start doing that with like historical things, not that Arthur is necessarily historical in that we know of an actual historical character who was Arthur, a British king, in the between the time of the after the Romans left Britain and as the Anglo-Saxons started coming in. But there is a lot we know of that era that we can be historically accurate. So anyway, I go too far. I'm going too far already. So, but what drew me in is how he's doing this. So I like the idea of breaking up a novel and into episodes and then putting it out. And I think it's brilliant because there's several reasons. First of all, uh, you don't have to wait for the money. And these aren't very expensive. So if you're in the US, I think it's a dollar 26. So $1.25 plus tax. It comes out to be about $1.37, $1.38 per episode. And I think it's 99 pence in the UK, and I don't know how much he's selling it in other regions. But first of all, he's able to make some money as he's writing the book. But it also creates kind of, I think this is what gets me kind of excited, is that kind of anticipation. I mean, you get that when you watch a serial, like when I was a kid growing up, just watching like, broadcast TV where you had to wait next week, especially like, when the Fonz is about to jump over the shark and he hits the ramp, flies in the air, and then it says to be continued. You got to wait till next week. to see if we made it over the shark. So there's a little bit of that going on with this, that excitement. But I think the other thing that was kind of neat about this from a marketing standpoint is you're able, well, like I said, you're able to kind of build up expectation, and also instead of, you only have like one release, so you release a book and you have about maybe about a month of excitement about it, and then it just becomes part of the back catalog. But this is a way to kind of keep releasing a book and keep it in people's minds. And because it's always fresh, you always got a new one coming out. So there is that. And then also, hopefully you make a lot of money selling the episodes. And there are going to be some people, and I've read through some of the reviews of the other episodes. This is episode 3 that we're talking about today. And some of the people say, well, I don't want to, I don't want to sit there and have to wait in between episodes. I want to read the whole thing. Well, that's great. You can have it either way. So if you're like me and you want to enjoy reading episode by episode as it comes out, that's great. If you want to wait and say, no, I'm just going to wait for the whole thing to come out, well, you're going to get that too. And if he follows the pattern that he's been on so far, that's probably going to come out. I would say he's been putting them out maybe a month, sometimes a little longer. So he's got 2 more episodes out. So I would think that the whole novel would be out probably by summer for sure. And you probably, right now it's only on Kindle, but you could probably Kindle and Kindle Unlimited, but you'd probably be able to get it in paperback and hardcover too, and probably even audio. So this is the third. This is so he kind of explains it here. So the Broken Kingdom is eventually what the name of that book is going to be, and this is episode 3, Arthur's Revenge, and the trilogy is going to be the Wormkind Chronicles. I believe it's a trilogy, and it says book 3 here, but it's really episode 3. I can see why this is kind of confusing. I will tell you this right now. If you have not read episode 1 or 2, don't buy this book. Go or this episode. All you got to do, if you're on this page, and by the way, the link to this is in the notes below. All you got to do is come down here, and you can see right here. Here's the trilogy, and or the first 3 episodes. So there will be 5, and then there'll be a novel, and then I think he's going to do the same thing for book 2 and the same thing for book 3. Fascinating. I will tell you this. I wasn't really that excited to read yet another version of Arthur, but I was more for like an academic reasons, wanting to read as an Arthur. Wait a minute. The character is Arthur. I'm an author. Okay. As an author, I was interested in this format because one of my favorite authors, see now I can't separate the two. Alexander Dumas, who wrote like the Musketeers and the Count of Monte Cristo and the Prussian Terror. Those guys are guys like him were, like the Musketeers was not written as a novel; it was written as a serial, and I think it appeared weekly in French newspapers, and so it was a reason to come back. And it's written in a way that makes you want to come back and read the next episode. And they did that to help sell newspapers and then magazines, and eventually, I think that style of writing, that serialized writing, kind of died off once like serials went to the radio and then eventually to television. So this is what Donald's doing here is it's a novel idea. For our times, but it is nothing new. It's something that it's basically bringing back something that used to be. So this is the third of 3 episodes, and you know what? Well, let's do this. Let's go right into I'll read you my review, and then we'll talk some more about it. I have decided to do. Before I do that, I will tell you, and I'm just going to be honest with everybody out there. Everything I do is self promotion, even when I'm reviewing other people's books. Well, first of all, I truly believe um, one of the great writing coaches out there, Claire Taylor, says, if you don't have time to read, you don't have time to write. And I take that to heart. And so I feel like it is my duty to read other authors, especially ones that, you know, ones are my peers, but especially ones that are much farther along, are further along in their careers, like Angus Donald. He's someone to take notes from. Um, and so if I'm going to read them, I might as well do reviews. And a couple of things. First of all, I'm always on the side of readers and writers, so I like promoting other authors. And but also, but there's a little bit of self promotion going on here too. Of course, everything I do on social media is a little bit of that. So I've decided to change things up about how I present my reviews. So before, and nothing's going away. It's more of like an additive thing. So before, what I would do is I would finish a book, give it 5 stars, real briefly, some people may think that's a little dubious. You get 5 stars or I don't review it. If I don't like it, then I'm not going to say anything about it. I give everybody 5 stars if I either like it or if I don't. And I do that because I know what it's like to get less than that as an author. And I also know that there's a lot of there's a you know there's I've gotten some 3 star reviews that are fair. um but there's a lot of people that'll give like 1 star reviews for like dumb reasons, so I feel like I'm helping out that average there. And also, I'm just trying to help my other authors, but I really do. If I give you a 5 stars, or if I give an author 5 stars, I'm saying this is a worthwhile book. So you can read it, make your own decisions, but that's usually what I do. So I read the book, I give it 5 stars on Amazon, I write a review, and then I take and I copy that, paste that review into Goodreads, and then usually share the Goodreads version of the book, and on most of my social media, which is like Facebook, which is probably my number one. I share it on Twitter, and usually on Twitter, I add the author in case they want to share it too. At first, I was a little shy about that, and I thought, well, if somebody shared a review about me, I'd want to know about it too, so I can share it. So I add the authors, and and then I will also take that review and I'll put it in my blog and my WordPress account. And that's an interesting thing. So before, I was taking the Goodreads version of the review and sharing that, but then I realized that I on my blog post, Goodreads is it's more of a general account, but I have a WordPress account that I probably should start trying to build up a following on. But the other thing about it is that I can put links and previews to books in WordPress. So not only can I do that for the book I'm reviewing, but at the end of it, I can say, also, if you're interested in my latest book, I can put that link in there too with a preview on it. I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. And so I thought, well, why am I directing people to Goodreads, which is kind of a dead end? It's not a dead end, but you'd have to like really kind of dig to see, oh, this guy's an author too, I should go look at his stuff. But if I share and there'll always be a Goodreads and there'll always be an Amazon, because that's where those stars really count. But if I'm going to share it, I might as well share the WordPress, because then I can get WordPress subscribers, and I can also put a preview for my own books. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So we're going to stop sharing there, and then I'm going to share over here. And so I'm going to show you what it looks like coming from Facebook. So this is my Facebook page. If you are not a friend or a follower, I invite you to be either one that you're comfortable with. If you want to be my friend, we can be friends. I will accept your friendship right away, as long as you don't look like an obvious like porn star. I mean, I don't care if you're a porn star, but what I'm saying, like a fake account, or a scammer. by the way. You can be a porn star. That's fine. I have nothing against porn stars. In fact, I'm rather fond of them. By the way, this picture is great. My friend Tim Rossi, I've known him since I was a teenager. He has bought every single one of my books. And he sent me this picture. He texted this to me, and this is the entire collection. So he's got all of my novels here. And there I am with my pickle hub, my Prussian helmet, but my American Civil War. I'm doing what I can. All right. So anyway, you can see. Okay, here's if you came from Facebook, this is what this looked like when I put together this live stream. But here we go. So this is how it looks like when I share this from WordPress instead of the Goodreads version. And which, by the way, I don't know if I can dig up a Goodreads version, but even the preview is better. So the preview shows the entire cover for his book, and it gives you a little preview there. So I like this. This is a good way to do it. It's the way I'm going to do it from now on. So we'll click on that, and let me just make sure that did that follow through. Okay, no. Okay, so I'm learning how to do this. So I have to, I'm going to unshare that. And because what it did is it opened up a new window. So we're going to share that new window. And thank you for being patient with me as I fumble. No, that's not what I want to do. What is going on here? That's settings. Okay. We're going to share a screen. As soon as it lets me. Okay, here we go. My computer's acting funky. I think that, yeah, there we go. So when it pops up, okay, first of all, there I am. Self-promotion. And let me close this. We're not buying any women's underwear right now. All right, so this is my blog post. That's me with my fiddle. And of course, we're going to get nothing but ads here. And there's his cover. And then The Broken Kingdom, Episode 3, Arthur's Revenge by Angus Donald. My rating, 5 out of 5 stars. That's 5 out of 5 stars on Amazon and Goodreads, okay? And then the title, on Amazon, you have a title for your review. On Goodreads, you don't, and neither, well, I guess you kind of do here. But anyway, this is my title on Amazon. A satisfying middle episode in of itself and a reason to keep reading. And then here is the review, and I'm just checking to make sure I'm still live, and I am. So here is the review. A satisfying middle episode in of itself and a reason to keep reading. I'm fascinated by this experiment in storytelling. This is episode 3 of what will be book 1 of a trilogy. Book 1 contains 5 episodes, so we are crossing the midpoint of the story here. Before reading this, you must read the first 2 episodes to understand who's who and what they're doing as we pick them up here. If you have, you might want to go back and review those episodes since the episodes are coming out every month or so. Because I've read a few books since the last episode, I had to go back and remind myself who was who and what was going on. Because of this, it would have been nice to have a previously on the Broken Kingdom section like they do on streaming services. Perhaps a list of characters would help too, or maybe I could just be a bit smarter. What's interesting is that Donald is ultimately writing a novel with an overall story arc and pacing, yet he still has to pull off individual episodes that are satisfying, have arcs of their own that include a climax, and compel the reader to come back for the next one. Episode 3 does this well. I won't spoil anything here, especially for those who haven't read the first 2 episodes. Episode 3 picks up the story of several characters and follows them as they begin to converge. There's an action-packed climax at the end which may seem like a conclusion. However, Donald reminds us at the beginning of the episode that there is still a much larger threat looming in the distance. I'll be interested to see how this threat presents itself and how characters, both friends and foes, deal with it over the final two episodes. If you haven't read the first two episodes, you should. If you're on the fence about reading this one, you definitely won't be disappointed. So this is why I'm sharing the uh, this is why I'm sharing the WordPress version of this instead of the Goodreads, because I can do this. So in the programming here of let's see if I can close that. Okay, of WordPress, I can actually have a preview built into it. And let me see, does that take me to another? Yes, look at this. So without even leaving the page, you can actually read a preview of this. Now, like I said, this is episode 3 of what's going to be a novel that's going to contain these 5 episodes. So it starts with chapter 12. And then this is why I'm being a sneaky little bugger here, because so you can preview whatever book I'm reviewing, and then it says view all my reviews, so you can click there too, and that'll take you to Goodreads, and I'll have all the books I've reviewed, including the other episodes of this. And then here we go. Check out my latest novel. So here's me just kind of sleazing my way in here, and once again, there's there's my preview for my novel here. And I think you can read up through like the second chapter of my book. So let's see. Let's go back to. I'll turn off the present here, and I'll give you. Let's get back to the Amazon page, and we're gonna share screen. And oh, I did the wrong one. I'm sorry. Please excuse me. Let me try that again. We're going to present, share screen. This is live television, folks. Well, not live television, but you know what I mean. Okay, here we go. All right. So, yeah, I liked it. I'm liking the whole series. And I think it's very clear when you read the description of what's going on. And even in the description, it tells you, let's see. Yeah, this is the 3rd episode of The Broken Kingdom, a new Arthurian. I can't speak. Arthurian fantasy novel, which is delivered in small sections of 70 pages or so, about 20,000 words, as an ebook only. Episodes 1 and 2 are available and should be read before this one. So he tells you right there, there will probably be 5 in all. The action takes place in the blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here's my one complaint, and I already said this in the review. So the book and the story is great. I really like it, but it took me a while. I wanted to read this when he announced it, but I was in the middle of reading other books when it first came out. So by the time I got around to reading episode 1, episode 2 was available. So I was able to read episode 1 and then read episode 2 right after. So going from episode 1 to 2 was quite easy, because it was just like reading a book. I mean, I think I literally got done with episode 1 and just pressed buy the next one on my Kindle and keep reading. But I had to wait for this, which is what I wanted to do. I was very excited about doing that. I like that whole kind of, it's almost like, waiting for Christmas. So you're gonna get a new installation of the story, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. But I have to tell you that when I started reading it, and I mean, a little, just very, very slight, a little, what do you call it? Spoilers here, not big ones, just slight spoilers. So if you don't want to know anything about this, go get episode 1 and stop watching now. 3, 2, 1, here we go. So it's chapter 12 starts with the dragon because there is a dragon involved in this. But so far, the dragon hasn't had a whole lot of plot. The dragon is basically it's the book starts with the dragon, and then throughout right now, the dragon hasn't had a whole lot other than Donald in each episode going, oh, and by the way, there's this, this other guy over here that, watch out for him. Okay, back to what's going on. And so it starts with the dragon, and it's just, once again, just giving you the sense of like there's this, even though they're all fighting in Britain, off somewhere to the frozen north, there's this terrible thing that is eventually going to be a problem. And now back to the story of all these, the Brits and the Saxons and the inner fighting between the kingdoms in which Arthur is involved. So it starts with that. It's fine, but then it starts picking up some of the characters and where we left them off. And the main characters are, I'm probably going to get these names wrong. I actually wrote some of them down. So, because I did go through the other episodes to make sure I was on. Let's see, here we go. Yeah, Sithral is the dragon. I'm probably saying that wrong. And Nimue, it was a female wizard, a soothsayer, and her guys. There's Morgan, Arthur's half sisters, Arthur, Igraine, his mom. Uh, okay, I won't read all the characters, but I can't remember who it was, but we're beginning to have some main characters. There's Arthur's story, there's his sister's story, Morgan, there's his mother's story, and I'm going to say it wrong, although like other characters say her name wrong too. Igraine, yeah, and there's Merlin's story. There's a character called, I don't have it with me now. Red Wolf, something like that. I think he's like a Saxon who comes over. Lives in a poor fishing village, and all the farms and the fishing villages are being flooded in Jutland, which is where the Anglo-Saxon, the Jutes come from, which is like modern day Denmark, Schleswig and Holstein, which is part of Germany now. And so they're kind of, some people think of the Anglo-Saxons coming and the Jutes, which is basically all of them because that's Jutland, coming over to Britain as an invasion. Other people say it's a migration. And I've heard or read versions or seen versions of Arthur where Arthur's a Briton and they're fighting against the Anglo-Saxons. And other versions of this, it's not quite that way. The Britons are fighting amongst each other. The Anglo-Saxons are kind of mixing in as well, and there's conflict there. But there's a character, I think it's Red Wolf. I could be wrong. And he's one of the storylines that you're following as he leaves his fishing village in Jutland, comes across, signs up to go fight with some a Saxon lord. Things don't go really well. He ends up with the Stone Men, who are kind of a military league of misfits, of men who kind of like the Foreign Legion, in which like men who would have been sentenced to death are able to like redeem themselves fighting with these really tough guys. Well, anyway, all these things. What I'm trying to say is that when I started reading this book, I knew who the dragon was, but then when we started getting these stories, I've read a couple books since I read the last episode. So I was like, wait a minute, who's this again? And I couldn't remember who's who. And I'm like, Gorlois is the usurper king, but I couldn't remember that. I had to kind of go back, and I mean, I think as I started reading, I started remembering. Oh, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, that's his mom. That's Arthur's mom, Igraine, or that's, I think his brother is Caius. And so I felt what would be, if you're reading this as a novel, that's not a problem because you've been reading it through. But I think if there's going to be episodes and they're going to come out like at least a month in between, maybe it would be helpful. You could take this out once you put the novel out, but just to have a real brief previously, and just to catch the reader up so they know what's going on. I'm like, oh, that's right, that's right, that's his mom, that's his sister. Merlin's got these two guys, a giant, a dwarf. The soothsayer, her guys, just to kind of, so you're like, okay, that's right, because they do that on television, and that's only a week in between. So I felt like either doing that, or sometimes even like in Shakespeare plays, you open it up and it has all the characters. That's very helpful too. You know, um, I know he's doing this independently, and it's really tough to put illustrations. My first book, Rampage on the River, has got a map, and I'm never going to do a map again unless someone else is handling it, because it was a nightmare formatting that, and even still, like doing updates to that book, which I just did. The map jumps all over the place, and so a map would be great, but we could get by with that. But just some kind of like, here's what happened before, so that you know what's going on. That's my only thing I would say about that. And then once you get done with the whole thing and you put the book up together, you don't need them anymore. And maybe a list of the characters. Maybe you could do that instead and say, Igraine, Arthur's mother, who's, I believe she's a Saxon who was enslaved by Britons. She's like a serving wench, and she was a lover to King Arthur's father. In this, Arthur is a bastard child, a love child between Arthur's father, Uther, and a Saxon slave who's like a serving woman, but treated well in his court, Igraine. So I think that would be helpful. So anyway, enough of that. What's going on with me? I am. I put out my last, well, my latest book came out February 3rd. It was supposed to be on the 4th, but it came out the 3rd. Sales have been going great. I had I think I tripled my pre-orders from the last book, which was great. I've had I think my sales for the first week were more than, or about the same of like the first 2 months of the previous book. So that's doing really great. I am kind of by design. The way I work is I put a book out. I give myself about a month to do some outlining and some research, and then I will start writing the next book, which right now is called the French Fiasco. And if you read The Prussian Prince, you'll see the setup for there, because The Prussian Prince is about the Austro-Prussian War, and we wrap that up and we wrap that storyline up. But then there's an epilogue. Well, you'll see, like in the end of that story, there's kind of a setup of where the character is going to be going next, and then there's an epilogue that kind of sets up the political situation that will eventually turn into the Franco-Prussian War. So the next book is going to feature the Franco-Prussian War. I don't want to give away too much, because I don't know how much of it I'm going to use, how deep of it I'm going to go into. And so that I'm going to start writing that in the beginning of March, and there'll probably be about a year till it comes out. Let's see what else. Oh, on this channel, if you're interested, a friend of mine and an author, a great author, Baptiste Pinson Wu, he has got a new book coming out called The Undead Samurai. And I've read 2 of his War of the Three Kingdom novels, and I have the 3rd one in my queue. He was on Twitter, and he's got a channel like this too. And he's actually had Angus Donald on his channel and interviewed him. And he was asking on Twitter, he's like, hey, I got a new book out. I would love to be on someone's channel if you have a podcast or a channel. And I said, well, I'm never going to grow if I don't try. So I sent him a tweet, and I said, look, I don't have that big of an audience, but I'm building if you're interested. And he said, sure. So when we get back, I'm going to be talking to him, and I'll have him maybe on the very next time I do this. We'll have him on, and he's a great guy, great writer, very interesting guy. He's French, writes in English. He's married to a Chinese woman, and he lives in Japan. And I think he's probably teaching English in Japan, like I used to do. And he's really into Asian culture and writing, so which I am too. We'll have him on, and that'll be a good time. He's got a great personality. He's fun to talk to. And then there's a podcast called God, what is it called? It's Daniel Lucas. It's Books 101 or something like that. I've been on it a few times. And he's like, "Hey, I see you got a new book out. You want to come back on the podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." So anyway, all that, I'll share it when I'm on that. Oh, and also speaking of podcasts, so Darren Rollins, he is on the board of the American Civil War Roundtable in London. He's British, but he's a big American Civil War fan, and he's got his own podcast called American Civil War in British history, or in UK history. And he's got a new segment in that, and he asked me to record some fiddle music for it. So I gave him a version of me playing the Bonnie Blue Flag and the Battle Cry of Freedom. So he's going to use that music as the intro and outro for those podcasts. And if he's talking about a Union guy, he's going to play the Union tune, which is Battle Cry of Freedom. And if he's got a Confederate guy he's talking about, he's going to play the Bonnie Blue Flag. Okay, we've got a few things. So first of all, Brian Riley.